let me start by introducing our panelists today and asking them to answer one critical question. To my right is Jennifer Moxon. She's the Managing Director for IBM in New Zealand. And we're joined here by Stephen Patak. He is Director, Service Provider, Partner Organization, Asia Pacific, Japan, and Greater China for Cisco, and he is based in Singapore. To his right is Marc Spiotta. He is the Specialist Sales Director, Asia Pacific for Microsoft, and he's also based in Singapore. And we also have Paul Lamb. He's the General Manager, Converged Cloud Enterprise Group, South Pacific for Hewlett-Packard, and he's based in Sydney. Now, I'd like to hurl a challenge to each and every one of you here. I'm giving you 3 minutes to take on the persona of a futurist, but be very pragmatic. Tell us about one trend that you have observed that companies here should prepare for.
Well, thank you. Big data, we've heard from Greg about a description of big data. And IBM is investing heavily in big data. As IBM has moved its business to higher value services over the last 5 to 8 years, we've invested heavily in acquiring new software and assets that actually form our big data part of our business. Software and services actually contribute 80% of our business, and here in New Zealand it's close to 80% as well. So the transition to higher value services is very much in response to our clients' needs. And in response to that, our conversations have been changing with our clients as more and more of the C-suite, especially chief marketing officers, the chief financial officers, the CEO, are interested in how they actually get a better insight into the information they have in their organisations. So we're banking a lot as part of our 2015 roadmap in the corporation. We're finding very much locally that there's a very strong interest, whether you go and talk to a healthcare organisation, a government department, whether it's an airline or banks, etc., very much interested in how they can better analyse the data. And that's changing the conversations and the way we're working with our partners in terms of how we bring those capabilities to our clients. A local company that's really used big data very well, predictive analytics, is a wine company called Delegates. They've been able to cut their reporting times, they've been able to improve forecasting and planning cycles, and as a result of the predictive analytics that they're using in their business, they've also been able to improve on a global basis the number of vineyards. So that's a local example of how local organisations are using analytics in their organisations. Thank you.
So a couple things. First, I just want to acknowledge some of the global trends I believe Greg talked about and absolutely affirm those. So with responsibility for what we call APJC, we're seeing that across the theater. In Japan, for example, our growth is really around service provider and their mobility rollouts. In Greater China, it's around connected healthcare. The digitalization in India is very much driving video. And then in Australia, it's a consumption of cloud because organizations want to consume IT as a service. So those trends aren't going away, they're here to stay, and you'll see more of those. If I take an opportunity to look just a bit beyond that, there's just 2 that I want to point out. The first one is all of us in this room, I think, for ourselves and the organizations that we work in, have to find that right balance around making a profit, but also doing what's right for the planet. And we talked a lot about 40 billion devices being connected in the next decade. And that's what Cisco calls the Internet of Everything. And there is an opportunity for all of us to make a significant profit within that. We actually believe it's a $14 trillion market in the next decade. I'm happy to take it offline to give you some ideas on how the heck we even came up with that number, but it's a real number. But more important than that, it's going to change how we consume electricity. It's going to change healthcare. It's going to change the environment, our overall productivity. So I want you to think about the resources in this world are not limitless, and we have the opportunity to use technology to better efficiently utilize those resources, and I think we all have a role in this room to play in that. So that's number one. Second is around your partnerships and your partnership strategy. For those that might not be aware, over 90% of our business in APJC is through our partners. We've always been a very partner-centric organization. We have been able to grow and will continue to grow our business through our partners. So as you take a look at your own strategy and your own growth strategy, take a look at what partners you want to bring into that and how your expectation is to grow with a partner like Genai, with regards to, let's say, cloud. What you might want to build yourself and the core capabilities you have, but how you want to leverage a partner like Genai to help you grow your business. So those are a couple of things that I would be thinking about if I was a New Zealand business owner.
Thank you, Steve. Mark?
Thanks, Divina. Picking up on, I think some of the same themes have come out. A lot of talk during the day about 4 mega trends, right? Big data, cloud, mobile, and social. And to Stephen's point, it's absolutely what we see as well, not only in Asia Pacific, but really at the global level. The interesting thing about those trends is that they don't happen in a vacuum or independent of each other, right? There's a lot of interdependency between them and impact on each other. So ultimately, they're enablers for us to figure out how to leverage for our business, for our personal lives, whatever it may be. But and oddly enough, both of the 2 previous sessions ended with a little bit of an inspirational thing about what the first one was, you're not judged by who you are, but what you do. The second one was 3G changed our company, 4G is going to change everybody. I agree, it's absolutely about what you actually do with these enabling technologies. So, if I'm a futurist and I'm thinking out toward, what's the area to focus on, I wouldn't dare to say that one or other of those trends is more important to bet on or pick on. What I would say though is that I think collectively as a technology industry, we've all kind of got a pretty good understanding about big data. I mean, if we asked everybody to write down that definition, you get roughly something along the same lines, mobile, roughly along the same lines, and arguably for cloud as well. The one that I think is still kind of nebulous and out there is social. And I don't know that we've really defined what that means internally and externally as companies and organizations. So, with that futurist hat on, I think I would be looking forward and trying to figure out how do I see social playing into my enterprise, both in how I engage with my customers and my partners, as well as how I leverage those means of communication internally. And we have those conversations on a daily basis with our customers. When Microsoft thinks about how to leverage these trends and these opportunities for value, the kind of the core driving things that we think about is we want to leverage the familiar. We want people to be used to interacting with applications and seeing interfaces and ways of communication that they're used to, whether it's email or Office or Excel or whatever it may be. At the same time, we want to provide flexibility. So the cloud is not an all or nothing proposition. Mobile is not an all or nothing proposition. It's going to appeal to each enterprise and each organization at the level that's appropriate for their business. So we try to provide that flexibility in our offerings. And then lastly, commitment to the enterprise. So when we try to partner with our customers, it's very much around a commitment to not only what we're going to do with them today, but to your point, in the future. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to unlock there. Thank you.
About 2/3 of the citizens of your country want to connect online. They want to buy things online, get services online. They want to do stuff with you online. And only 1/3 of the businesses in this country are currently seeing online as a strategic platform that they can actually use. We all want it to be strategic. We all tick the boxes in the surveys and say it's strategic, but we're not doing it yet. And it's a really key point. We've got a mismatch right now in your market today. The pragmatic futurist in me says it's probably about 1/3 of the organisations sitting around in our industry aren't going to be here in 3 years' time. Or we're going to be struggling so hard getting the job done that we're trying to do today that we won't actually have achieved anything more in terms of revenue or better service or making our customers happier or our constituents happier in government. So it's key that we get to that piece today. And in fact, sometimes I do these presentations and someone will come up to the HP guy or the Genai guy afterwards and go, that little fat guy from Australia, what did he say again? So I want you to remember this thing really clearly. You've got to get the millstone off from around your neck. What you're doing today, that list of projects that's sitting up on your wall back at the office that you haven't finished yet, you've got to get that done and get past that. You've got to get your service catalogue automated. Right? The services that you provide as IT to your organisations needs to be automated. And the second thing you've got to do really clearly is make sure you understand the economics of this thing that everybody wants us to do called cloud. Now, as the general manager of cloud for our organisation, this isn't going to sound real clever, but cloud is not an automatic decision for everything you do. The internal private cloud that you use, the traditional IT wrapped up with automation capabilities and cloud-like economics is critical. You're going to use managed cloud services, you're going to use cloud-based applications, and you're going to consume public cloud resources. And as a strategy, you need to pull that together in what we would call converged cloud or a hybrid cloud at HP. But your key point is get a handle on the economics. Highly variable workloads, fabulous for consumption. If it's not highly variable, perhaps it's not right, but take advantage of the economics inside your organisation. Point number one. Point number two, just a real quick one, is, you know, everyone talks about great ideas and great things that you can do, and you can have a car that does stuff and it talks to the parking meter. You don't even have to park the thing these days. In fact, you can go parking and not actually participate. It's fantastic. You've got to get to somewhere. You've got to have a strategy around social. And if you're in the IT organisation, link out, reach your marketing people and touch them and find out what they want to do. If you're government, get your citizens collaborating. If you're an organisation in the enterprise space or a commercial organisation, make sure you're helping your customers to collaborate together. In fact, look into the topics around collaborative consumption and understand how you can achieve more from that topic. So 2 things. Get the millstone off from around your neck today and make sure you're reaching out and helping how you can get collaborative with your customers.
Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you mentioned the economics of it, because I know that when I talked to CIOs, they said the users want everything faster, simpler, better, but sorry, you won't have any extra budget to do all of these things. Am I right? Yeah. So it keeps on cropping up every time we have our surveys. So every year we interview the CIOs of the 100 biggest IT users in New Zealand, and they say they all want these things, but I'm sorry, the budget usually is static or 5% at most, and not even additional staff. And we know that New Zealand has always been a very cost-sensitive nation. So if you are going to talk to CEOs, COOs, CIOs, and CFOs on what is a single investment that they should look at, let's say in the next 6 to 12 months, so that they can take advantage of all of these trends, of this integration of technology, what would it be, Jennifer?
Okay, well, as leaders in our industry, we do one of 3 things.
Yes.
We make decisions, we create value, and we deliver value. And that's all about having skills. So specifically, it's about investing in ourselves, the level of skills we've got, making sure that we've heard about the trends, making sure we understand how we can actually make those decisions, create the value, and then deliver that value. And that means that we need to continue to ensure that our skills and our knowledge becomes at an expert level and specialise, especially with the industries that we're working in.
I've talked about partnerships. I think that's got to be front and center, but it's got to be skill and capability, and it's got to be taking the time to really invest in that plan and what is your strategy moving forward with all the technology trends that you've heard. So those would be a couple top of mind.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Marc, what are the...
Yeah, I think along the same lines, the whole idea of making more with less and how to react to tight environments. The one common thread that comes out for us when we talk to our customers, whether it's an airline or a financial services institution, is ultimately what they're trying to accomplish. They want to be closer to their customer. They want to be more value, and they want to be more involved in making that decision. And that's actually an internal and an external thing as well, right? So if you think about it from an IT perspective, and there was a comment earlier about aligning with your marketing folks, it's absolutely an opportunity, I think, in an economy the way it is right now, to make more with what we have, right? And to take a look at the people that we have, investing in our people, but also in the technologies that we've already invested in. How do you get more from those technologies? So I would absolutely encourage each of us to take a step back and figure out how we leverage what we have today, including our people.
It's interesting nobody mentioned any piece of technology. It's about the people around you and the organization. How about you, Paul?
I was going to mention a piece of technology. I better not now.
Okay, that's your cue.
No, I wasn't really. Look, my advice is you've got to have a strategy. We know that, and we've got them written down on important documents and printed on walls. You today find some tactics, 1 or 2 tactics that's going to release a dividend, and make sure you capture that dividend and reinvest it towards that strategy. Don't let it fall back. You guys, don't let it fall back to the bottom line. All right, capture the dividend. If it's a simplification of your environment, flattening out of some of the infrastructure, automation that releases some people to do more clever things, but take the dividend and be ready to reinvest it quickly.